Ladies and gentlemen, Steve. There's a thing that happens, perhaps not to other people, but certainly it happens to me. And that's a twofold thing where my brain contradicts itself. One part makes one argument, the other part makes a completely opposite spectrum argument. Steve is an entity. Steve is a character. Steve is, I have said this to myself and to others, potentially the best 6-foot paint job I've ever done. At this level of zoom, Steve looks great. If you get up real close and analyze it, Steve doesn't look as good. But I think he might be the best 6-foot paint job I've ever done. I picked these colors out, I don't even know, 3 months ago? And then came the inner brain argument, which was finish it. And then the other part was like, don't rush it. And then the other part was like, finish it, it's not yours. And then the other part was like, but I don't want to scratch it, or I don't want to mess up the paint job. And I had mentioned in other videos recently that I spent about 10 hours over the course of the day just painting. I painted 4 bodies and 2 interiors. And why do I hear a klaxon now? The beeping is gone and now we have a klaxon. So when I finally got into the doing it, I was having a pretty good time. I'm deathly afraid of rolling this over. Steve is now fresh in my mind with how good he is. And I have to assume that's incidental. It's a Phoenix. My chassis doesn't really change anything substantive, but I mean, and we got tusks on Canyon Customs, so that's a thing that we all like. I'm not sure. We will compare now that we're a couple minutes removed. Over the course of time that has transpired between the painting and this filming, which is a couple days, less time than I wanted to give it, honestly. I would have liked him to have sat a couple more days because paint, much like concrete, we tend to kind of go into it before the curing is finished, so I'm hoping I don't scrape too much of this paint off of it. But I had to, I guess the short of the long of it is I had to let go, right? Steve is a visitor to the canyon. The gentleman behind it came from the Workbench 20, who sent all of this stuff in from the Trucks of Fortune. I have made him wait too long, and I started to feel like an overwhelming sense of guilt. And then the other part of my brain was like, why? He's never once been like, get that thing back to me right now. I don't know. I fill in blanks that maybe aren't there. Anyway, the best 6-foot paint job I've done. Tamiya, almost throughout. Tamiya metallic silver, Tamiya metallic red, Tamiya metallic blue, because I wanted to do my best to match the wheels, and boy howdy, do I think it worked. And then when I was finishing up the masking, you'll see the white roof, and I was like, should it be a silver roof or should it be white? It should be a white roof. And I was backing all of the blue, silver, and red with white anyway. And then backed it all in black because I hate when bodies behave translucently. I don't want to see through any body at all. And I needed to paint the outsides of the fenders. So black paint was coming out anyway. I'm going to see if I can talk and drive and hold my breath all at the same time. Oh, man. He's so good. He's so good. And there really is something special. I'm not making an effort to wax too poetical about it, but there is something special about a Phoenix. And to me, much of that specialness comes from the fact, the same thing that makes a TRX Ford Defender special, which is, I don't know, I guess, not meeting your expectations, because the Phoenix body is not extraordinarily heavy. But when you have the body apart in two halves and you're painting it, and you pick up just the rear portion, which is fenders and half cage, that fenders and half cage weighs about the same as a full body. Like a full body, not just a cab. Like a Sendero body weighs about the same as just the rear half of a Phoenix. Then you take the Phoenix front end and you put the interior in it, and the Phoenix interior weighs about as much as a cab. And then you pair that to a pretty big cab, and then you're astonished with how well it can perform toting all that weight around. A lot of people have said, you know, I have said famously, out of the box, unmodified anything, the Phoenix is one of the most capable rigs out there, if not the most capable rig straight out of the box. Now, I have no experience with an RTR, but the RTRs are just the kit version without electronics in them, and the Falcon Wild Peaks, which I'm not crazy about. I like a Tusk on a Phoenix. It's just the way it is. This Steve is a straight axle Phoenix, which in my experience, I just don't like as much as the Portal. I don't know why. I have two sets of Phoenix straight axles, and I'm like, meh, they're okay. It's something about them paired to a VFD twin, but shattering that paradigm is Steve, because I love the way this thing drives. I had to, it has been, and I apologize again to the gentleman to whom Steve belongs, to the people of the Canyon, because it's been so long since Steve has gotten to come outside. It has been just sitting there waiting to be painted for so long. I forgot what radio it was even attached to. I got it on the first try. I'll give you that. I looked at the receiver, saw that it was a 7, a Radio Link 7 channel. So I knew it had to be an RC6, and we don't have a ton of RC6s. We do have a metric ton of RC4s. Let's try big. It's right there. It's right there. Now we'll drop back down. Speaking of other Phoenix things, anyone considering uttering the phrase variable overdrive is a gimmick is probably the same folks that say unlockable diffs is a gimmick. And they're not. They are tools. And I would put them in terms of tools, I would put them like the trenching shovel. For all of you who know what a trenching shovel is, it's a shovel. It has sort of a V-shaped skinny blade. You don't use a trenching shovel very often. But when you need a trenching shovel, that's the only shovel that works. Unless you want to put a pipe in the ground and dig a 9-inch wide trough for a 1-inch pipe. That's where trenching shovels come in. So that's, to me, that's what variable overdrive is. I'm not going to use it all the time. It's also great for dig. Tightens your turning circle. It's basically, because we got 46% in a Phoenix, it's basically half dig. It is literally half dig. The front wheels are now spinning 50% faster than the rear wheels. And then you got full dig, which is 100% faster. He's so responsive to any variety of throttle inputs. And then on top of that, just so stable. Don't forget, haters, if any of you are out there, Desert Lizard's on there, and they are perfect. If you're not thinking about the shock at all, the shock is doing all of its jobs. And these shocks are doing all of their jobs. He doesn't unload the front end. He never feels super light, even when I get him like twisted up. I had to remind myself, now this is a breath holder right here. But I also, it's breath holding combined with laziness. I don't want to get up. We just went down to the local fish emporium, baby, because that was the catch of the day. And this is a little wheel session here, because we got to wheel it at least once after the paint job. Though I can't. I would be lying if I told you that a part of me wasn't just like, well, that's it. It's painted. Wrap it up. But I would be remiss. This is why we're here, right? Steve came here for the content. You're here for the content. I'm here for the content. I feel like I've had so many half-completed thoughts. I don't know. We're doing this episode in reverse because I kind of wanted to see him out in the wild before we'll wrap it up on the bench inside. We'll talk it down a little. We'll take a little look at Steve under the light so I can give you a closer look at what a 6-foot paint job looks like. His rear flex is limited a fair bit by the fenders because of my chassis design, but I wouldn't take them off. Like look at him. I mean, we're not that far in, and my brain cannot recall if I said it or only thought it. The paint was still wet, body wasn't even assembled, and it was sitting on the bench part of the way through painting, and my wife walked into my workshop, and I said, here's what I'm working on, and she went, America, and I went, America, and then my youngest walked in after it had been assembled and saw it and went, America! And I think that's perfect because it's Steve. It's America. I'm glad that I went, not just because of the wheels, in general. Oh, no. I don't know what I'm hanging. There we are. I'm glad I went with silver and not white. I can't tell what I am sticking on. There we go. Okay. This one has, Steve's got dig on a switch. No, I am not driving under that excessive slope sign because I can see the spider webs from here. And I would just rather not. Oh, look at him. He is a collaboration of all the worst things. And let me clarify, let me illuminate on that. He's pretty, inarguably. He's shiny, is also inarguable. He's got parts that are discontinued / rare, which makes me want to sit him on a shelf to be admired. But he doesn't live here, he visits here. So there was a collaboration. I'm making all the available excuses that I can for why it took so long to finish Steve, and it's inexcusable. But here we are. Who could argue that this 6-foot paint job isn't outstanding? I had done a Stars and Stripes, I don't know, 15 plus years ago. This is all Cricut here, the stars. I cut so many stars. For those not familiar with a Cricut vinyl plotter, little home plotter, you can get two sizes of, you basically, unlike a plotter which pulls off of a roll, a Cricut uses a sticky back sheet and you stick whatever material. That's how it can cut cardstock and paper and leather and whatever, right? So to cut vinyl, you stick the vinyl down on this little card that goes into it, and you can have a 12 by 12 or a 12 by 24. I only have 12 by 12s. So I am limited in size to a 12 by 12. I cut about 70% of a sheet out of these 1-inch stars and used all but 2 of them. And when I cut them, I was like, oh, you'll have extra stars for later. And then I just kept applying stars and applying stars and applying stars. So I didn't mask it. It went stars on. And then I figured out the rest from there. So begin with the stars. And you can already see. See, we're much closer than 6 feet now. Some of the bleeds and weeps, there are far less bleeds and weeps than I thought there would be. In the star portion up here in the front, I think they're all pretty crisp. This could fool someone into thinking I knew what I was doing. Right there. It's the little stuff. You get closer than 6 feet, there's one right there. But this, I'm ecstatic. I got the body lines to match up. I couldn't bring myself to put any stickers on it other than the window masks. We will leave that up to the final owner. But look, come on, that right there. What? Oh, and perhaps the best part of all, I didn't ruin the door handles. There are no Phoenicians here with door handles other than Steve, because I guess I ham fist them. And I'd like to point out page 33 of the Phoenix manual on bag I. Note size 2 at top of cage, X4, size 1 at bottom, X2. That is completely reversed. I don't know how many Phoenicians I've built at this point, but that is completely wrong. The size 1 is the big one. They go at the top, and the size 2 is the tiny one that goes at the bottom. There's absolutely no way to do them reversed. I am really, what I'm really going to have to do, okay, things I have to check here before Steve is going to go home. All right, so he has been drilled for his pin on his little custom pull pin. And I am embracing so hard the little cell phone lanyard guys with the clips on them. This is kind of my favorite thing. And there is Steve in the underneath. What has been changed since you saw him last? He is now fitted with the very fancy incision drive shafts, which are a bit too rich for my blood, but boy, are they nice. And boy, do they fit. They just slap right on there. So Steve, the man, the myth, everything works great. I'm completely happy with how he turned out. I hope that his owner is. I still got spiderweb on him. I hope that his owner is happy with how he turned out. I'm really good with this one. I'm mad at myself that it took so long. But we got there, didn't we? We got there. And let's make it official. If not the best, then my favorite 6-foot paint job. Good old Steve. It came from the workbench, Vol.20. Again, very bittersweet. But I would classify him as complete. I don't know what else there is to do. He sat with his body off for so long. Oh, yeah. So, there. Can we see in there? Is that a web? Dang it. All right. So, there's no way to... There we go. No. There we go. I went like a dove gray with a charcoal panel, and the dash and much of the interior is charcoal. Black floor mats. I did some brown in the center. You can't see it for crap. The interior I would call like a the interior might be a 2-footer, and I painted it by hand. The methodology this time around was duplicolor vinyl and fabric clear. I just painted the inside, I just did it with the clear, and then it was all craft and hobby paint. Like the seats are DecoArt Americana Slate Gray. It went on great. 2 coats. I used multi-purpose black for the black parts. I used this exact bottle of Craft Essentials Spice Brown, and it came out great. I did, as I mentioned, I did 2 interiors at the same time. Pardon me, Steve, because it is related content. I did. I don't know. You can for just a second there, you could see inside, and then the camera refocused. So I did these with Element headrests, and there are Vanquish headrests. This one is also the charcoal, but I tried to do a light gray, and it came out crap. So, oh wait, we can see through the sunroof. There you are. So what I did is I painted both interiors at the same time. Steve got the better one. Ghost Rover got the worser one. That was a pretty easy choice to make, because I figured if you're painting one interior, it only takes twice as long to paint 2. So we went with the 2 interiors. So many spider webs through. Did I want to drive Steve more? Well, of course. Did I want to drive Steve less? Yes. Did I not want to drive Steve at all? Also, yes. He drives amazing. I think he came out great. I hope that people are pleased with how he came out. I am still most amazed. Freehanding all the way. Look how good that field of stars lined up. Like, if you look at it straight on, they're straight. If you get that like 40, look at that. Look at that. Just eyeballed it. Didn't mark anything out. So good. I feel a weight, right? There's a weight lifted off of me. Because out of frame left, there are 2 more painted bodies. So we have reduced we've reduced the number of bodies that need painted in the canyon by half. We're down. We went from 8 to 4 because we painted 4. You already all saw Toothless. Now you've seen this guy. Who will you see next? I'm not telling. Of all the ones that have gotten done recently, I think maybe it's because of the amount of time that it took. And this is very let's look at him from this side. This is very, very on brand. The building which I'm standing in right now, we refer to it as the structure that was built in 2 weeks over 4 years, which is exactly what happened. It was a floor, and then it was a floor with trusses on it, and it sat like that for 2.5 years. There was just no time to finish. There was no anything to finish it. I was fabricating parts and working on my back patio, just out in the open, like basically exposed. Open on 3 sides, in a patio with a tin roof. And then my buddy came over one day and he goes, let's finish it. And in the span of about 72 hours, we clad and sheathed the building and we're done. But it was 2 weeks over 4 years. Steve, the actual grand total amount of time was probably about 6 days over July, August, September, 4 months. So 6 days over 4 months. That's very on brand here. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you all for coming along with Steve. We have got, I'm going to talk about it more in the future, but we've got so many builds coming up. So many builds that I don't even know. So, thank you so much for watching. Steve is going to go right here, so he's partly in frame. He's going to share screen time with a friend of his for the very last time. For the final time, unless there's something that happens that I don't know about. Steve will be moving on. And hopefully we'll get some photos shot in from, and I can't remember. I want to say Tennessee. Is that right? Hopefully we'll get some photos fired out over to the canyon so that we can see Steve in his natural habitat, in his home environment. So we'll look forward to that. I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. I will hope, at least, that in between now, which is now, and when we meet again, you one and all do your very best to have a good one, everybody. This is a farewell here from the canyon. It's a farewell for now, but we'll see you again soon. And kind of turning it on its head, we're going to spin our way out. Susan, play them out. Farewell from the canyon. We'll see you next time, everybody.